Hey, welcome to VS5 Module 4, Convert. So this is a really important module. We've looked at focusing, making sure that we get in on what we need to do, and we've looked at attract and engage. But now we need to look at converting. So VS5, as you know, is a series of steps, and it is really, really important that we follow the steps. There's a reason why I laid this out in this order. So focus, of course, was getting focused in on our audience, working out our keywords, and doing our SEO. Now, as I've always said, SEO is super important, and for too many businesses, it's something that I have to do before I can do anything else with them. Then we need to attract people. We need to improve the content on our website. We need to make sure our pages have good content, and then we need to write more content so that when people search in these search engines such as Google for what we do, that they find that content and they're attracted to our website. We then need to engage with them. We're not always going to sell first time we come in contact with someone, so we need a follow-up plan, and engaging with them means capturing them, getting them into our email list, and continuing to send them great information so that we can bring them back to our site and hopefully convert them. Of course, convert that we're looking at this week, making sure that we do make those sales because, well, we're in business. And if we're not converting people into clients or buyers, then we're not in business anymore. And finally, we need to educate them because we need to continue the education process so that when we are with people and we put information in front of them, when they're looking for the services and products that we do sell, they'll come back and buy from us, or they may refer to us, or it may be that we release new products and we have a reason to reach out to them and they'll be warm to buying. So let's get started. So the first section we're going to look at in Convert is to write great pages that sell and use a call to action. Now, this is super important because if we're not writing copy that sells, in other words, if we're not making the sale through our words, people aren't going to buy. Okay? People don't just buy for the fun of it. You need to encourage them to buy. My first question to you is, if you landed on your page, would you buy or pick up the phone and call yourself? Now, it doesn't matter what page of the site it is. Some people say, well, I might not land on my contact page where my information is, or I might not land on a product or service page. That's actually irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. You need to make sure that no matter which page they land on in your website, that they're enticed to buy from you. So it doesn't matter whether it's an article or blog post. There should be a call to action. It might be in the sidebar, a special offer, a consultation, whatever it happens to be, even an ad for your shopping cart. It doesn't matter. There is places to entice people to buy. If it's a page where you're talking about a product or service, do you ask them to call you? Do you have a button that says click here now to buy or book? So many pages on the internet are there and they do nothing. They talk about a service, but they don't really go into any details. They don't ask for the sale. And the home page is obviously the most valuable page in our website, but realistically, people go from the home page to another page. So the home page might be doing everything right, but if then they go into say the About Us page, and it's kind of boring and it doesn't really go into enough detail about the people, or it just has a big list of people in a picture, how does that help sell? Just having your picture and your name and maybe your qualifications. Wouldn't it be better to have a short paragraph, or better still, a link off to a page about you, which creates an extra page on your website, of course? So have a look at your website, go through each page and look at them and say, if this was my first time here, would I buy or pick up the phone and call myself? Could I even actually do that? Is the phone number hidden? Anyway, we're going to go into more detail in this section. So one of the first things we need to do is use words that actually sell. And this means, starting to think in terms of copywriting. And copywriting is a term that's used for writing pages or writing letters or anything to sell a product or service. So the first step is to use easy to read language. Stop using heavy jargon unless you're selling directly to other industry professionals who understand it. If you're selling to the general public, you've got to get rid of your jargon. It's too confusing. Even to the point, for example, on my page I might say, we do SEO, and then in brackets after that I write search engine optimization. Now further down the page I'll use SEO, but the first time I use a term like that, I will in brackets break it down. Okay. Now this is not uncommon. This is something that we do in papers when you're writing for academic purposes. If you use an acronym, you always have to put the full version of the acronym next to it. And there's no reason you can't apply that in your own pages on your website. So write it for the average person. Now, you may not know this, but the average age that they target television towards is between 9 and 12 years old. So you might think you're watching an adult show, but the fact of the matter is it's written at an academic level of around a 10 to 12 year old, somewhere in there. So that there's no mistaking that you're not going to get the jokes or you're not going to get the point they're making because it's made in such simple language. You will get it, and so will 99% of the public who watch that show. This is no different. You've got to think about your audience not as idiots, but as people who may not have the same level of knowledge as you or schooling as you. So you need to break things down into easy to use language. Second thing is you need to review your layout, your font, and your image. So you need to look at your pages. Are they messy? Is the font too small? You know, I see it too many times, the font's too small and you can't read it. People over 40 need glasses most times to read, and then, even then, it's still hard to read some websites. In fact, I just had a discussion recently with a colleague of mine where I was reviewing one of his websites and I just said to him, mate, it's too small, you can't read it. And it wasn't until he realized his browser was actually, he'd increased the size of the font within the browser, which you can do, so you can kind of zoom in. When he switched his browser back to 100% view, he actually realized, the font is really small. I just didn't realize it. So have a look at that and have a look at your images. Do your images help illustrate, or do they just draw attention away from what you're trying to do? So have a look at your layout, read through it. When you just glance at it, is it easy to kind of see what's going on? For example, headings and subheadings and things like that. Some pages are just difficult to see. And don't forget, about above the fold. We want our most important eye-catching information to be on the first screen that people will see when they open us up on their phone or on their desktop. So that means using a good headline. Now, we need to break our long pages down into more specifically targeted sales pages. So just like the About Us page where people often list the staff, they often do the same with their products and services. And we have talked about this earlier in the Attract version where we talk about improving the content of the pages that we already have. But we definitely need to do this where we break down long pages into more specifically targeted sales pages so that you're not trying to cover a whole range of products in one page to sell them. Break it down, make more specific content. It's not only good from a search engine point of view, it's good from a human point of view because they're getting more details and they can make an informed decision about that. But also we need to use the words that sell on those pages. So I'd like to see lots of the word you. Remember, we're focusing on the person we're selling to, not on what we do and what we are. You need to go through your menus and your links. Make sure your menus work. People put too many items in menus. It's often not necessary. You can have a menu that leads to a main page, which then has a series of bullet points that link off to other pages. So for example, you might have a menu item that says services. When they come to the services page, there's a list of services, and when they click on those services, they get more specific details on a targeted sales page about that service. No jargon. Look, I mentioned this already, but jargon is not good. Okay, it's confusing. Even often within one industry, there's sections of that industry that use specific jargon. And so if you're trying to sell to your whole industry, they won't understand necessarily what you're saying. So don't use it unless you have to. Remember that everything is mobile first. So when you're looking at your content to make sure it sells, make sure that it shows up on a mobile device clearly and easy to read, understand, and to take action. Use emotion, not just facts. So we're using words to sell. We need to use emotion. Facts are good as part of your page, but you need to talk about how it's going to help them, how it's going to make them feel. Otherwise, people aren't going to buy from you. And lastly, but definitely not least, probably number one, quite frankly, benefits, not features. Not what it does for that person. So when we talk about benefits, we're talking about how it helps someone to achieve something. When we talk about features, it's something that object does. So in the case of a juicer, the juicer has 5 speeds. Well, whoopee-doo, that's a great feature. What's the benefit of that? Well, because you've got 5 speeds, you can blend any sort of fruit in there and they will come out in micro small particles in the smoothest juice you'll ever buy. So don't just look at features, make sure you talk about the benefit of that feature, because that's what people are looking for. Now, it is quite hard when you first start out, like writing copy that sells, okay? So you want to improve your skills. Have a look at getting a guide to help you. Now, in the membership, I've included the book that I've got there that I've written called Headlines That Sell Like Crazy, and it has over 300 easy to apply headline templates. So it's not so much words that sell, but it's headlines that you can use. And you can find that in the membership area. But 2 books that I have, and there's a couple more in this series, Words That Sell and More Words That Sell. There's some that are specific to industries that have been written, and it's a thesaurus of words that improve your writing. So you can look up a word. It's nice and simple to look at. So I've got a copy of Cyber Talk That Sells open in front of me, which I bought for $9.95. There you go. And I can open it up, and it has, for example, phrases. A catastrophe is waiting to happen. Advance notice. After Friday, forget it. Am I wasting my time contacting you? An offer you can't refuse. An open letter too. Aren't you ready for? So it has all sets of phrases like that you can use. And also it has sets of words as well, but it's all broken down, and you can go through those and you can look at what you've already got written and you can go, oh, okay, how could I use some of these to improve the content that I've got? So you're going to hate this. Oh, that's a great sentence starter. So, you're going to hate this, and then you can go, your existing vacuum cleaner or whatever. So have a look at Words That Sell. You can buy them online. I'd highly advise it. They're absolutely worth every cent, but definitely those first ones, Words That Sell and More Words That Sell, are absolute killer product. So I'm going to look at a couple of example pages. These are a client's page, and just a little bit of an example of how you can, stretch things out and make it better for the actual person who is coming into the site. So in this case, we're talking about concrete, because this company specializes in concrete. And you'll see they've got different types of concrete. On the left-hand side there, we've got exposed concrete, coloured concrete, standard concrete, concrete for pools, concrete driveways, and concrete patios. So rather than just having one page about concrete with a list of different types of concrete that we can supply, we've broken it down into the specific types, and we have an illustration to go with those. And then underneath that, they've got view products, which actually leads to a page about each of those products. If you look on the right, we have concrete patios. And on concrete patios, they talk more specifically about patios that are made of concrete. And they have a link that says, see our range of coloured concretes and our range of exposed concretes. And below that, we've got some examples of the concrete that is available for concrete patios. So we have coloured, we have standard, and we have decorative exposed concrete. Now, while those different types of concrete are available for different uses, so you might choose to use them around a pool, In this case, we've led them to a page where we talk about concrete patios, and then we've got some really good examples of the different types of concrete that they could use on their patio. And underneath each one of those is a button that says get a quote, because that's the action that we want people to take. So the first page is about choosing what you want to use your concrete for. And the second one is about getting a quote for a particular type of concrete to use on your patio in this case. Now, many businesses can use this, even if it's only just for services. You can have your services broken down like this and then go into greater detail with a get a quote or a book a consultation button, whatever it happens to be. Obviously, shopping carts for products work like this all the time. We have the category of concrete, and underneath the products, coloured concrete, standard concrete, concrete patios, that then lead to a product page. And you'll recognise that this actual website is using a style, probably you could class it as a shopping cart style, but it really doesn't matter. You could do this easily with a table, but I think it illustrates really, really well how, by breaking up the information and then making sure that you call for them to take an action, you can improve the sales process within your website. Now, look here, this is another page from their site. They do stones, and you'll notice that they have decorative stones and rocks, and then they break it down into different sizes, and then there's the call for action again. So very simple, but it's repetitive, okay? They're really, hooked on this thing of, here's our product, here's the different versions of it, get a quote. And that's their focus. All they're interested in is in people either calling them or filling in a form to get a quote. And then hopefully they can make the sale from that point. Now, you'll notice in the sidebar on the right-hand side of the page, we've also got, are you a tradie looking for regular bulk quantities? So we've got kind of two different markets being dealt with on this page. We've got the home market who's looking to get a quote on something, or maybe a building manager or someone like that. But then we have tradies who are buying regular amounts, and they're looking for a place to supply them on an ongoing basis. And so they have a trade inquiry button there as well. So not only are we dealing with one audience, we've brought in a second audience effectively on the same page. But the key thing here is that they still make that call to action, get a quote, or there's obviously a white button there that says trade inquiries. If you're a tradie and you're going to buy bulk amounts, you're more than likely going to click on that to make an inquiry. So very straightforward, but there's that regular call to action. So we're going to have a look at two examples here. The first one, they're both plumbers, and they're both high-ranking plumbers in the search results. But I think you'll notice the difference between one page and another. Now, this page is very plain, mainly text, obviously set up for SEO purposes, not so much necessarily to sell very well, although it may convert, I'm not sure. But it's pretty clear, welcome to Liquid Plumbing Solutions. Well, that's a very boring headline. I think you should be better asking a question. So straight underneath that, they've got, are you currently searching for reliable emergency plumbing on Brisbane Northside? That would make a better headline than Welcome to Liquid Plumbing Solution, because no one cares that it's Liquid Plumbing Solution. Besides which, there's an icon in the top left corner of that is their logo that says Liquid. And then we've got the phone number in the top right, which is really, really key. Your phone number needs to be there where it's easily accessible and people can click on it easily. And then they talk about 24/7 emergency plumbing. So lots of text, but at least they do have their phone number up there. Now, let's have a look at the second example. Sam's Local Plumbing. Call us now. Your local emergency plumbers. On the top right corner, you'll see book a job online and receive $20 off. So a great offer there to encourage you to actually take action. And then underneath that, they've got live support. Welcome, can I help you with anything? So they're covering their bases. They've made it really clear that you can call them. They've made it really clear that they're local emergency plumbers. They've made a special offer, and they've got live support. Which one makes the effort to make the sale? Now, you might say Sam's Local Plumbing's a little bit overdone, and I agree with you. There's a lot going on. But I tell you what, when I come to this page, if I scan this page, luckily there's a phone number in that top corner, because if that phone number wasn't there, there'd be nothing really to help me. I come to this page and straight away, call us now, book online, get a discount. You can see the difference between these two things. I can pretty well guarantee that if you put the same amount of traffic into this site and this site, that Sam's Local Plumbing would win on conversions, because they've got a great offer. They've got their phone number and they've got live support. It's very, very well set up. So have a think about your site. Now you're probably not a plumber, and that's fine. But have a think about how you could do the same thing. Could you offer a special offer? If they contact you, online, you'll give them a free consultation, or you'll give them a free gift, or there's a discount involved. What can you do to improve your website to help people make that first step and buy from you? I wanted to look at something specific to like selling products, and this one's always a good one, because when I see people selling books on their website, it's often very different to how they sell books elsewhere. Now, the reason I like looking at this is, number one, I work with authors to help them turn their books into a business. And number two, I started out selling online by selling books that I wrote myself to teachers, as you probably already know. In this case, we've got John Spencer's written a book called Essential Business Strategy for Turning Ideas into Actions. Now, that's actually not the name of the book. That's the subheading. Awesomely Simple Essential Business Strategies is the full name. So interesting, doesn't even actually have the right name, but whatever. Delivered in John's approachable and straightforward manner, Awesomely Simple reveals the 6 key strategies that are foundation. Okay, what if I don't know John? What if I come to this page through a search engine? I happen to type into the search engine and this page comes up, which is what happened in this case. I don't know John's approachable and straightforward manner. I'm looking for a book on turning ideas into action. Okay? So straight away, that's kind of incongruent with someone who doesn't know John. So you're kind of ruling out a lot of people straight away by making that assumption. We look at a few bullet points. Filled with case study and clear action, it includes easy to follow guidelines for implementing the strategies in any organisation, no matter its mission. You'll notice it's all about benefits. It's all about features, not benefits. It's got case studies. It's got guidelines. It's got, concisely breaking down in strategy, specific examples. There's nothing in there that tells me how it's going to help me in my business. A perfect resource, according to who? Who said it's a perfect resource? I mean, there's no testimonials here. There's nothing. There's nothing here that kind of gives me an idea that this is a good book. Now, I can read the intro. That's great. At least that's there, so I can actually have a look at the book. But it really doesn't sell the book to me. It's just basically a boring list of features, and it assumes a lot about me. So I followed the link to the book on Amazon, because you can see there it's buy now on Amazon. I thought, okay, we'll see what Amazon. So the first thing I noticed was the title is different up the top. It's got the full title, the proper title. And then it starts off the 6 core strategies to elevate any business and how to implement them made simple. I don't know why it has hyphens there, because that makes no sense at all. It should at least use a comma, maybe. It's really terrible English. What do the world's most successful companies have in common? And what can you actually take away and use from their examples? This is much better than what was on the previous page. Trusted advisor. I don't know why it says trusted advisor, because I've never heard of the guy before, and I don't know who he's trusted advisor to. So be careful what you claim as what you are. It's fine. You might be a trusted advisor, but a better statement was, trusted advisor to, and list some people. Okay, helps you take a hard look at your business and together develop specific plans and action steps together. That's interesting. I don't think he's going to be in the room when I'm reading this book. So I don't think that's accurate either. So you've got to realize that when people read this content about your book, they're making decisions about the book, and they're making decisions about whether they're going to buy. And straight away, I'm kind of like balking at a few things here as I go through. Now, I'm being nitpicky. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But, even in the next paragraph, delivered in Spence's approachable and straightforward manner. I don't know John Spence. How do I know he's straightforward? You could say, Spence delivers it in an approachable and straightforward manner, making it easy to understand. You can change it around so it's actually better. So it doesn't make the assumption that I know that he has an approachable. It can say it a different way, but still convey the same meaning, okay? Reveals the 6 key strategy that create a foundation for achieving business excellence. That's great. How do you know they're the 6 key strategies? I mean, they're his 6 key strategies. So I feel that, if you were writing this, I would be telling you to say, Spence delivers his 6 key strategies that he's found. So, for example, my VS5 framework, these are the 5 steps that I believe are the ones that you need to learn to grow your business online. This assumes that these are the only 6 strategies. All these become bulk points. All these points that slow down the sales process and actually make it difficult for you to make a sale. Okay? So either way, I can go into this in a lot more detail, but the key thing is that is not that, and this page is much better than this page. So why did they not take this and put it here? Okay, they cut corners. Web pages are endless. Why did they cut corners and put a short description there? Why didn't they do it properly? I don't know. Maybe it's a setting that they can't change. But I know one thing's for sure. This is a better page. It might not be the best page. I think it certainly can be improved greatly, and we all can improve our pages. Don't get me wrong. I have to go back and review things all the time, and I do it on a regular basis because I also drop the ball on this. But, show some little bit of consistency, and this is definitely a better sales page. This is better still. So, Book Yourself Solid, one of my favorite books. The books, that's what the page lists his books on Book Yourself Solid. So there's 3 or 4 different versions. A system that actually works. Book Yourself Solid is the original business building system created by Michael Port in 2003. More than 500,000 smart small business owners like you have gotten booked solid since the first edition of his best-selling book was released. 93% of small business owners who use this system see a 40% increase in their revenues in the first year. It is the fastest, easiest, and most reliable system for getting more clients than you can handle, even if you hate marketing and selling. Now, that last sentence is a straight-out headline. And you can tell that because it says, it is the, and then it says, even if you, okay? So they've used a straight-up headline there, and it works beautifully. You compare that, delivered in John's approachable, straightforward manner, awesomely simple, reveals 6 key strategies. That sells. Okay? He sold thousands of copies. It tells that, hundreds of thousands of copies. He uses a reference to smart small business owners like you. So he's used you, and he's referring to you, making you feel good. Have gotten books solid. So in other words, it works. And 93% see a 40% increase in their revenues in the first year. Now that's a big bold statement, but it also stands behind the fact that his system works, and it will work for you if you apply it. So, this is a good page. Here's another little example. I saw a massive improvement in my child's results within days. Quick to learn, easy to apply, the Study Smart method helps students get the A+ they want time after time. From high school to PhD, the results keep on coming. Now that's one I wrote for a client. Okay, you've got something that catches people's attention because we're selling to parents in this case. The kids need the course, but the parents always buy the courses, not the kids. And then it tells people what it's going to do for their child. Okay, so when we're trying to make our pages convert, a good headline, a good statement, depending on which way you go about it, this is a statement, not so much a headline as in a question or something, works really, really well. Now, a lot of people ask, how can I, create better pages? Well, you can use a plugin, and there's a few different ones. I prefer Thrive Themes' Thrive Architect plugin. It allows me to build focus pages, and they already have a lot of pages laid out. So if I need a sales page, I can actually choose a page that's already pre-built for me, and then all I got to do is click and change. And no doubt that you've heard me mention Thrive before. So if you're looking to use a plugin, it is by far the best one. It's better than Elementor or Divi, any of the others, and it works exceptionally well. So I'd like you to go and load up your website now and look at 2 pages which talk about your products and services. How could they be better? Do they really sell your business? And then I want you to go through every page and look at all of them. Read the content, look at the content, try to pull yourself back from being you and pretend you're being a possible client, someone who's never been there before. And to be honest with you, I got to say, most people I've talked to who have a website, when they go and actually look at the website, it's almost like it's the first time they've been there. In some cases, they haven't been into their website and really, really looked at what they've got there for years. They know they've added stuff, they've been blogging and all that, but they haven't actually sat down and read out loud what they've got on their website. It's amazing. And look, to be honest, the best way is to read it out loud. That's super, super important. So to review, have a look at the words that you're using. Make sure you're calling for the sale. Have a look at it from the perspective of an outside person, because that's going to make a big difference in your success on whether you convert the people coming to your website or not. I'll see you in the next section.